Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining this morning. Welcome to the webinar, Optimizing Customer Interactions for Small and Mid-Sized Businesses, brought to you by Salesforce and Frost Sullivan. My name is Kyle Christensen. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for all things Service Cloud at Salesforce.com, and we've got a pretty good lineup for you today. Before we get going, just wanted to get some logistics out of the way. This is our safe harbor statement. We are a publicly traded company, and basically what this says in all its gory detail is if you're going to make purchasing decisions, please make purchasing decisions based on currently available functionality. And if you really are interested in the details of this, you can visit our website and read all about it on your own time. All right, that out of the way, let's get started with the agenda for today. As I said, action-packed lineup. To start, we've got Keith Dawson, who's a principal analyst at Frost Sullivan, and he's going to go through some of the research they've been conducting into the use case and the business case for SMBs and their use of cloud-based service. Following that, I'm going to take you through a demo of our product at Salesforce.com. We call it the Service Cloud, and you'll get to see how it works and how easy it is to use. And then following that, we're lucky to have with us Mike Decker, who is the VP of IT for kCura, and he is a recent successful Salesforce.com customer, and he's going to talk about his experiences and the results that they've seen as a result of turning to the cloud and turning to Salesforce.com. So with that, let's get it started. I'm going to kick it over to Keith to take you through his research.
Thanks so much. Great to be here. I'm here to talk a little bit about the way that customer service, the delivery landscape is changing, especially for smaller businesses. Big businesses and brands have long had the luxury of very expensive but slow-moving call center environments. But recently, changes in the ways customers seek out service have made cloud-based delivery a much more attractive and productive option for SMBs, letting them take advantage of some of the very sophisticated problem-solving tools with a much lower cost of entry. So on the next slide, what I'm going to talk about today is how the cloud is shaking up both the practice of service delivery and what that means for ambitious smaller companies. I'll discuss some of the reasons why service delivery technology doesn't always favor the small and medium-sized business, and how cloud-based systems can change that dynamic, leveling the playing field at least as far as it's apparent to the customer who's looking in from the outside. And finally, I'll offer a few thoughts about how moving into the cloud is going to force that very conservative call center-ish business model of service delivery to move faster and to be much more flexible. On the next slide, first a word about who we are and why we're qualified to talk about this stuff. I personally have been covering contact centers and service delivery for 20 years. For the last 3 of those years as principal analyst at Frost Sullivan. And Frost itself is a 47-year-old research and consulting firm with a very large practice in several areas where service delivery and technology meet. On the next slide, I'm going to be showing some data points to provide context for talking about small business and cloud-based service. Now, most of the data that I'll be talking about today comes from a survey that we did earlier this year, where we gathered information on a wide variety of technologies that are used in and operational practices of more than 300 North American contact centers. And this survey generated a lot of our data about attitudes and business practices that I'm going to show you. In addition, some of the information I'm going to talk about comes from other research projects into the size and growth of particular sectors. So let's get to it on the next slide and hook this whole idea to a few significant data points. First of all, to start, the overall market for hosted contact center services rose by really what was an amazing 34% in 2008. And let me define terms. Frost & Sullivan defines a hosted contact center as a network-based service where a service provider hosts a contact center technology platform and then leases out functionality and applications and features to the end users. Now most of that is what we would consider to be call routing. That's the infrastructure that moves the calls around and ultimately deposits them in an agent's ear. And it takes the form of an alternative to some of the very long-standing hardcore call center technology. That's the stuff like ACDs and dialers and IVR systems. And what we're seeing is that the poor economy, which put the brakes on a lot of infrastructure spending, actually helped turn a lot of companies on to the benefits of the cloud-based model. It's a very attractive proposition, for example, to put something so essential as your service delivery onto the OpEx budget instead of the CapEx budget. So with severe spending constraints over the last year, a lot of companies have taken advantage of the opportunity to divest themselves of legacy premise equipment and the attendant maintenance cost that goes along with that. It's now possible for a modern typical contact center to offload much of its operating infrastructure to service providers through a cloud-based deployment model. But not all contact center functions are being taken off-site into the cloud at the same rate. And this is where we start to see some of the differences between smaller companies and their larger cousins. You look at one of the most important software applications, for example, the one that we call CSS, or Customer Support Software. We found that already almost a third of new deployments in that area are going in as cloud-based. CSS itself is an offshoot of CRM and help desk systems. It's the tool that helps identify what a customer's actual problem is and finds the solution to it, and it includes things like case tracking, the problem resolution engine, the knowledge base, and the knowledge management software. And already 30% of that stuff is going in through the cloud instead of on-premises. In fact, when you look at who's putting in CSS systems, you find that the most active companies these days are at the smaller end of the corporate spectrum, 32% in service environments of less than 50 seats. And if you include up to 200 seats, which is still, medium-sized in a lot of cases, you capture a full 72% of the new installs of CSS. Now, historically, someone putting in a complex problem-solving case tracking app like that was going to have to use a huge, expensive premises-based tool, something on the order of an Oracle or an SAP. But for SMBs, that's pretty much a non-starter. They're too expensive and they're too complex for the small service delivery environment. And that's why I think we're seeing the explosive growth of the more flexible cloud-based systems. And at the same time this is happening, contact center professionals today, much like their predecessors, are a very risk-averse and technologically conservative crew. They tend not to invest in tools unless there's a very clear ROI path and a clear cost control case to be made for it. I know there's been an explosion of new channels and new contact modes that consumers can adopt, things like Twitter and Facebook and lots of Web 2.0 applications. Contact centers have basically said, as a group, not yet, no thanks, we're not ready yet for that. Next slide. Now, along the same lines, Frost and Sullivan in that survey of contact center pros, the one I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we asked was which groups in your organization are involved in technology and application decisions for your customer service groups and your contact centers. Now, among small service organizations, by small here we mean those with fewer than 100 seats, almost half of the call center people said that they took a back seat to IT when it came to making decisions about applications. Only 20% of them said that these kinds of decisions are driven by call center management. And that's probably not surprising given the outsized role that IT plays in managing technology when the service delivery organization isn't as large and as well developed as it is in big companies with big traditional call centers. At the same time, support for hosting among those small companies for specific applications has reached a pretty high figure. It's in the 40% range for both infrastructure and applications for handling multimedia contacts. So what's going on here is I think that it boils down to the fact that for a very long time, smaller centers were forced to do things according to the plans laid out by big centers. For voice calls, larger centers and set the agenda for how fast you take care of a customer and how well agents should perform and all of that stuff. And by doing that, they put the smaller businesses into a position where they had to mimic the technology commitments of the larger businesses so as to appear to satisfy customers as well. Customers have basically the same expectations of large and small companies, so the small were always playing catch-up. But larger centers avoid change. They're very slow-moving beasts that don't always adapt to new contact modes quickly. They're still, just as we said earlier, they're still digesting the move to email, much less experimenting with Web 2.0 or SMS or text messaging. So along comes a variety of different kinds of cloud-based tools, and the ability to deliver service via a much wider range of channels and at a lower starting cost. And again, it's supported by a much more web-savvy IT crew, and that pretty much creates a recipe for smaller businesses starting to change the underlying nature of service delivery. Next slide. When we look at the small marketplace, we see a growing demand for cloud-based systems, especially when we explore some of the self-described barriers to deploying their service organizations in this manner. For example, having an existing premise-based tool is certainly a clear barrier and one that's only going to be overcome as each constituent system in a suite of interlocking applications comes up for a refresh cycle, or as centers start to add new technologies to the mix. What's happening out there is that companies are looking to hosting when added features provide a push, for example, when integration with CRM is a serious need. What's most variable as an as an objection, is that fuzzy, quote, perceived loss of control over applications. This barrier is primarily cultural and has really no basis in either cost, ROI, or technology. And it's likely that this objection is a way for managers to say something on the order of, well, I'm still unsure of how the cloud is going to fit into my daily life, and that makes me uncomfortable. Now, discomfort may be a serious objection at this moment, but it's one that has, I think, little or no staying power, and I think it's a fair bet that product functionality and cost savings are going to chip away at it, especially as there are more recognizable use cases of companies that have turned to the utility model for managing their technologies. The most popular reason for choosing the cloud, cited by 50% of respondents in our survey, was the beneficial cost structure that it delivers. No capital investment and a pay-as-you-go approach to expenses. There should be no surprise, I think, that this rises to the top, given the traditional cost containment bias that contact centers have baked into their operational environment. What might be surprising, though, is that 49% of the respondents cited the ease of provisioning and managing remote and multi-site agents. Almost as many, 47%, cited flexibility and business agility as drivers in their choice to go with the cloud. Having those reasons as the highest points of the driver pyramid suggests that contact centers are very aware that their operational environment is changing, becoming vastly more complex in ways that prior technology deployment modes don't always address. And that forces managers to turn to applications that reach much higher up the technology value chain than the core routing infrastructures of the 90s and the early 2000s. And when they consider those apps, they're less likely to allow themselves to be boxed into long-term commitments that really prey on their budgets and their IT resources. So the decision to consider hosting is no longer made based just on the short-term need to rush technology into place without a big spend, nor is it managers needing to pilot a new technology on somebody else's servers before they can commit to a full deployment. Instead, what you're seeing is that the decision is being based on business needs, things like restraining the ongoing cost of maintenance, the need for IT resources, and providing a greater degree of flexibility in the face of much more complex and quick-changing overall environment. This is, I think, is borne out by the 24% of call center professionals who choose hosting because, quote, managing technology is not our core competency. Well, that's absolutely true. Managing today's contact center is about managing information and people and customers. It's not so much like the old days when it was about managing software or hardware. Next slide. Kinds of things that SMBs are interested in doing tells us a lot about the potential to transfer a lot of service delivery to the cloud. The items that bubble to the top of their planning lists are precisely the elements that cloud-based service does well. Support for occasional and expert agents. There's a case to be made that extending premises-based infrastructure to people who aren't handling service calls all the time is prohibitively expensive. By taking the tools that these people would use and making them a utility, essentially buying the service delivery capacity that you need when you need it, you allow the entire company to function as an arm of the service group. And that very similar logic applies with agent desktop simplification. We've reached the point in traditional centers with a number of applications that crowd for agent attention during the course of a single interaction. It's huge, double digits in some cases. This creates opportunity to make errors, it makes calls take longer, certainly dampens agent enthusiasm, and a lot of people are starting to look at fixing this bottleneck and finding that they can't really integrate their existing premises apps without an expensive professional services engagement. Service in the cloud, though, it changes the fundamental equation for how you do that. At the bottom here, 2% in our survey said that they plan to invest in Web 2.0 technologies. And I think this is really interesting because what's happening is that they don't really know what Web 2.0 technology means in the context of what their customers will expect. And what I think is going to happen is that as we migrate more and more to the cloud, these kinds of things that they'll be able to do, Twitter, customer forum management, that sort of thing, are going to be a lot easier, and they'll start to tackle them one by one. And we'll see it starting with the smaller service organizations because they're the ones that are most adaptable thanks to their limited premises footprint. Next slide. Well, let me sum up what I think the cloud brings to the world of SMB service delivery. Primarily, it brings big service technology down to the level of the small business marketplace. It makes the landscape a lot more level between companies of different sizes. It raises the service quotient, and it does so at lower price points for advanced services. So it becomes a lot more affordable to deliver better service, and it ratchets up the competition. You also see the ability to integrate some of these advanced contact center channels, and that's more of a promise for the future than something that we're seeing today. But being able to combat the fear and the inherent conservatism of service delivery organizations makes a big difference. These are all things that traditional contact centers have been wary of because there really isn't a model for them to absorb a lot of these new channels using existing technology. And I think most important, the cloud amplifies the benefits of being small in the first place. SMBs are the closest entities to their customers. They're the most open to change and the most flexible. The cloud makes the most of that capability. Next slide. In the end, I think the shift to the cloud is going to have lasting effects on how overall service is delivered. I think we're starting to see the outlines of what a post-call center world is going to look like. Cloud-based service is going to change a lot of the contours and general expectations about what service delivery organizations are expected to do. One thing that's ultimately, I think, going to lead to the adoption of contact modes that are much more customer autonomous. There's going to be a lot more information that's accessible in some of the advanced knowledge management systems, things that tie into CRM and enterprise search applications. And that's going to lead to a lot more effective self-service that keeps costs down but doesn't necessarily alienate customers. And in the end, providing top-quality service is more about the people who do it than the technology that does it. The more time and attention you can spend creating better interaction agents, the better your customer base is going to respond. And I think that the move to cloud-based services, which is already apparent in the data that we have from the last couple of years, is certain to accelerate as the tools get better and as people become more comfortable and familiar with them. And this move to the cloud, in my 20 years of watching service delivery, it's unprecedented. And now that smaller companies can look and act like big ones for just a fraction of the cost, and they can make themselves more adaptive to changing customer environments, you're starting to see the shift, a genuine paradigm shift in how service is delivered. And I'm happy to say that small businesses are clearly going to lead the way in that. With that, I turn it back to you, Kyle.
Great, Keith. That was some fantastic stuff, and I think it really echoes what we hear from a lot of our customers when we're talking to them, particularly in the SMB space. In particular, I wanted to just give a quick introduction to Salesforce.com in case you're not familiar with us. We've been founded on the idea of taking advantage of the power of the internet and the power of cloud computing to do a lot of the things that you talk about, to enable quick time to value, to enable small companies to appear bigger, and to take advantage of some of the tools that historically have really only been available to some of the largest enterprises out there. And so that's what I wanted to do next, is kind of just walk you through a little bit about how we do business, the success our customers are having, and then show you the tool in action, because I think it sort of speaks for itself. We are, as a company, of course, named Salesforce.com, but don't let the name fool you. We've been focusing on the service and support market for the past 5 or 6 years, and I'm happy to say that it's proven out to be successful for us. We're recognized by both Gartner and Forrester as a leader in the space in their respective annual surveys. Some data that I think we got from you earlier this year, Keith, that says that we actually have about a 55% market share in cloud computing services for customer service and support applications, and as a result, we've captured over 8,000 different organizations, or I should say 8,000 service organizations, really of all shapes and sizes, are using our tools today, whether it's our call center app or our customer portal app or our social networking integration. And the cool thing about those 8,000 people, and the cool thing about our model is, again, it's very democratic in terms of the success we're having. So we do have some of the biggest companies in the world who are using us. It's companies like TD Ameritrade and Qualcomm and Comcast. But those same tools that they get to use for their multi-thousand person contact centers are in use by some of the smallest customers that we have as a company. So companies like Compass Learning or HomeAway maybe only have a couple dozen agents who are using our application, or even companies who don't have any agents and just want a web presence. They get the exact same tools as the big boys get. And, one of the things that we need to focus on as a company, given that we are a cloud-based solution, given that we do sort of price as a subscription, is really keep our commitment to our customer success. Because people pay as they go, they can kind of discontinue their service whenever they want to. And so what that means is when you join up with us, it's really entering into a contract. And as a result, we're very, very serious about tracking the success of our customers. And so we do surveys about every 6 months, third-party blind surveys. And what we see is, on average, 95% of our customers are incredibly satisfied. Over 3/4 have already recommended us to a colleague or to a peer. And beyond that, we're seeing actually success in terms of business metrics. So on the left-hand side, you see reduction in the things that you like to reduce, like case resolution time, like service and support costs. And on the right-hand side, you're seeing increases in those metrics that you care about, whether it's customer satisfaction or call deflection. And the one metric that really jumps out at me is customer retention, 26% increase, particularly in times like these when it's more important than ever to hold on to your customers. Having these tools at your disposal to really manage all your customer interactions in one place really help you achieve that level of success. And so we do it with our application that we call the Service Cloud, and more recently the latest incarnation is called Service Cloud 2. And our vision is really one application, one set of tools that allow you to manage your customer interactions everywhere they take place. So it used to be that you only had one choice, and you'd basically pick up the phone and call an 800 number, and that was that. But Keith, one of the things you touched on, of course, is that people are increasingly turning to the cloud for service, particularly for smaller companies who can't afford to deploy 100 people in a call center somewhere. You really need to be able to be successful in all your customer interactions, to reach out either on your own website, to manage interactions that are taking place in social networks like Twitter or Facebook. And what the Service Cloud is all about is really giving you the tools to manage all those interactions in one place on one cloud computing platform that you don't need any software, you don't need any servers to manage, just all runs online. And that's what Service Cloud is all about. And so from there, enough slides. I thought it would be good to actually switch over, and we'll take you through a demo and show you what it looks like. So what we're going to walk through here is a scenario. One of our customers, obviously an enterprise customer, is Dell. But again, I think the value here is that all these same tools are the same tools that our smallest business customers get. And so if you haven't seen Salesforce.com before, this is it. This is what you're looking at. As you can see, it runs in a web browser up here. So I don't have anything installed on my computer. I could just as easily be running this on a Mac or a PC or a Linux laptop, whatever it might be. I could work on it from home. I can work on it from the office. I can have agents deployed in some other country accessing the same information without worrying about compatibility of software, servers, or hardware. And it's really, at its core, it's been designed after the consumer web. It's designed to be really, really easy to use and intuitive from the moment you pick it up. So you see things like tabs across the top. So accounts are your accounts you're working with, your contacts, your people, the cases you're working with, your knowledge articles. And of course, as you look further down, you see the ability to manage conversations that are taking place in the cloud, whether it's a Twitter conversation or conversations that are taking place in Facebook. And then, of course, the analytics you might need to measure all this stuff as it's happening in real time with reports and dashboards. And so what we're looking at here is the home screen. And you can see right on there is the important dashboards that are important to me as an individual in my business, and these are all customizable. You can build these out using point-and-click wizards, but in this case, we're managing where the conversations are taking place through every channel. We're seeing which channel these cases are coming in from, whether it's email or phone or the custom portal. We can see who's accessing our knowledge across every channel, both customers on the portal and agents in the call center. On the left-hand side, you can see easy access to recent information. So in this case, here's one of my customers, a guy named David Adelson. I can hover right over this. I'm going to go ahead and drill in and see what kind of information we have on him. The great part about having a CRM system like this is the ability to really have one go-to spot for every customer interaction that you might have. Right, so I don't have a sticky pad with one interaction and an Excel spreadsheet with another interaction and a system like an Act or something with other information. It's all right here. Everything from the case history to the products that David might have to all the activity history that's either been entered by myself or by a sales rep or by a marketing person. You can see active sales opportunities, and you can see marketing campaigns that David might be a part of. And then, of course, the cool part is this is all customizable, so it's easy to add fields, to rearrange the page such that it fits your business. And it's easy to also integrate with other web technologies. So in this case, you see we've got Google Maps integration right here that maps the location of this gentleman and his business account. Again, the ability to connect other clouds is really the value of a cloud computing solution. So in this case, the scenario I wanted to walk through is one where he's calling me up because he's got a question about his computer. So you can see in this list here, I've got all the cases that he's got open with me so far. And in this case, he's calling about his XPS laptop. So I'm going to go ahead and drill in. And again, just like you have all your records of your customer in one place, the case is one spot where you can track all the information about this particular issue. So you can see the status, the priority, the case origin. There's business rules in the back end to make sure when this gets created or when it gets updated, the right action takes place. You can route it to different people within your company. You can set up triggers to fire off emails. Whatever your business processes are, you can handle that on the back end. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and try to figure out how to solve his problem. And the way we do that is with our knowledge base. So one of the new technologies that we just came out with that's part of Service Cloud 2 is something called Salesforce Knowledge, and it's integrated into the cases right here. What you'll see is this button that says Search Articles. So what I'm going to do is click this, and what it's going to do is take all the information about the case and the customer, and it's going to do a search, an initial search with me to try to figure out what the best answer is. So you can see here's the suggested solutions based on the case name, upgrade the memory on my XPS laptop. I can see analytics here, what's most viewed, what's most useful. I can filter this based on what I know about the customer. So, for example, I know he's a home user as opposed to an enterprise user. And so there we go. It's narrowed down my list of choices, and it looks like this is a relevant article right here. I can drill in. And the idea here is that you want all the information about a particular issue available really, really quickly in a way that's easy to navigate and quick to navigate so that an agent doesn't have to keep this stuff straight in their head and risk providing wrong information. And so you can see it, there's a wealth of information right here, product details, product description, procedures, compatibility, and additional links and information. You can see it's really easy to zoom around and navigate around so that you can find the exact thing you're looking for really quickly. And it looks like, indeed, this is the article I want, so I'm going to go ahead and attach this to the case and then head back over. And you can see there it is right there. So it's attached to the case. So again, if I ever need to go back in and see what happened with this customer, with this issue, there's a record of everything that takes place right here. If I want to, I can go ahead and give him this information over the phone, or I can go ahead and just shoot an email off because it's integrated with my email application. So we integrate with Gmail, we integrate with your Exchange servers or your Lotus Notes, whatever email system you have, you can build an integration here. And you can see it's a predefined template with the knowledge article linked to it right here, and it can fire that off. So from here, what I want to do is just go ahead and close the case. So I click this button here, and it puts some information. I can say this was closed on the first call, and problem has been resolved, and save that. And that's it. And so the idea is that, it's pretty simple, point and click. The idea is you're as productive as possible. Everything you need is in one place. The cool thing, though, is if I head over to these analytics right here, it's not just about one-on-one interactions, but it's about you as a business being able to manage all these interactions you're having at a macro level. And so you can see these dashboards all update in real time. Again, these are some of the things we saw on the homepage: conversations by source, cases by channel, most popular knowledge-based articles. And you've got this one right here that is first call closes month to date. So the cool thing is you can drill right in here and see more detail. So what I did, I just clicked in, and it takes me to the report. I can show some details here. And sure enough, right there is the article, or the case, I should say, that we just closed, updated in real time. I didn't have to, get some admin to go export the details for me. I didn't have to run a batch report. It just automatically is updated and reflected in my dashboard. So as a manager, I can keep tabs on how we're doing. So that's just one example to show you how you can interact with customers internally as a call center agent or as a service manager. But as Keith talked about, and as we're seeing all the time, customers are increasingly turning to the web for service. And the web actually turns out to be one of those channels that can make you as a smaller, mid-sized business appear much, much bigger than you are. And we help you do that with a tool called Customer Portal. And so what Customer Portal is basically just a website that you can set up. It runs on our servers. You don't have to deploy your own app server, your own web server. You don't need web developers there to help you get it set up and running. You can turn it on by yourself. It's all point and click, wizard driven, really easy to deploy. And this is kind of an example of the things you can do with it. You can search a knowledge base. You can let people input cases. You can create communities with something called ideas. You can let people download content. And you can all brand it and customize it for your business. So just to give you an example of how a customer might interact with this, you can see once I'm logged in as this customer, Andrea Bowden. I've got some updated cases right here. So you can see I'm expecting a shipment. I don't know where it is. What I could do is call the call center, but I don't like to sit on hold. I find that to be annoying. I might want to get an update at 2 in the morning when the call center is closed. And so that's why the web is such a great channel. I can log this case, and right here on the case comments, the agent can come in and update me with the information. He can say, hey, Andrea, no problem. Your laptop went out yesterday. Here's your tracking number. Enjoy. And that's it. So that saves me from having to log a call. That saves money, and it also makes me more happier as a customer. And then the other benefit is the knowledge base exists here also. Right? So sometimes you don't want to wait for an agent to pick up the phone or to get back to you. You might want to find the answers on your own. So I could come in here, search for an issue. I'll search for laptop. And you can see this is the same sort of knowledge base that your agents can access, but now it's presented in a customer-facing way. Here's the same knowledge article, the same knowledge repository, just displayed to the customers in a slightly different way. You can change the format of these articles so that they're a little more digestible by your end customers. And then, as I mentioned, the ideas community. So increasingly, customers turn to the web because not just because they want to interact with the company on a one-on-one basis, but they want to interact with other customers. They want to share ideas, share their feedback, and this is what this ideas tool is all about. It's about being able to give your customers a place to make suggestions, tell you what they think you should do with their products, tell them what's on their mind, what's bugging them. Other customers can come in, they can leave comments, they can vote for answers, tell you what they want to see, and you as a company can go and gather that feedback. And the great part about this is this isn't a bolt-on application that you need to integrate on the back end. It's pre-integrated with your agent-facing application. So what I mean by that, I'm going to switch back over to your internal app, go back to these dashboards. And what we'll be able to see is in real time, you can track all the behavior that's happening in the customer portal. So I just want to switch over to this other dashboard called the customer portal dashboard. Again, it's all one application. It's just kind of a different UI, different skin on the front for your customers, where I can see, again, the cases closed in portal by type, the top customer portal ideas, the number of logins per month, customer satisfaction index if you want to integrate surveys. All that stuff is trackable and measurable, and there's no messy integration you need to do on the back end. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to talk about is the ability to not just connect with customers on your own website, but one of the things that you really need to think about doing is going to those places your customers already are on the web. So that is social networks like Facebook. That's communities like Twitter where people are going and having service conversations. And so one of the new technologies that we've been able to deploy is something called Salesforce for Twitter, where you can actually come in and monitor all the conversations that people are actually having on Twitter, either about your products or your services. One thing you can do is search for different keywords. So for new product inquiries, or you can set up dedicated support channels. So something like Dell Deals or Dell News or Ask Dell, dedicated support channels where people can send out tweets and you can capture that information, pull it right in, and treat it just like any other interaction. And so with that, hopefully that gives you a good idea of everything we bring to the table as an application. And what I want to do now is actually let one of our customers speak for themselves about the value that they've had since they've deployed the Service Cloud and Salesforce.com. So I'm going to hand it over to Mike Decker. He's the VP of IT for kCura.
Hello, and thank you, Kyle. That's a great segue because we're obviously not the same size as Dell, but I'm going to walk through a lot of features that were just demoed that we're also using to service our clients here at kCura. First, a little background on kCura. Next slide, please. We're a software company founded and based in Chicago. Our flagship product is Relativity, and Relativity is a document review platform for corporate litigation. And what that means really is your big corporate lawsuits, legal cases, so Fortune 500 companies suing another Fortune 500 company. In the discovery process, they'll collect millions of electronic documents that need to be reviewed, analyzed, and processed to find those 10 relevant documents that could sway a case one way or the other. So the question is, well, where do you have these armies of attorneys reviewing and analyzing these documents in an easy-to-use system? And Relativity answers that question. You can put these documents in a Relativity application and have everyone access and go through the process that's required. More than 90 of the AMLAW 100, so the biggest law firms in the U.S., have used Relativity on a case in one way or another. They've accessed the system. We have 70-plus partners or enterprise clients. There are our two main channels, and it's who we deal with for support and service. Our enterprise clients are your large law firms that will deploy Relativity in-house or a large corporation. And then our partners are really our resellers. They're litigation support companies that range in size from a small boutique company focused just in a single city to all the way to the large consulting companies like Deloitte or Ernst & Young, who have deployments of Relativity across the globe. Currently, we have over 1 billion files that are hosted in Relativity systems, and we've been having a great success in the last couple of years, more than doubling in all our metrics. And that's key because we're looking for a service opportunity to grow with us. And being a small company, we compete against some very large companies in this industry, though. So the two factors that help us be successful is, one, providing a great product, Relativity, but also providing great support and being able to manage that support. On the next slide, show some of the challenges that we were experiencing, what we were looking for. Company started is a typical small business, we're really just doing your ad hoc support, either through phone calls directly to a few people answering the calls or direct email back and forth. That was quickly outgrew. You have no history between the service reps. If support tickets going on for multiple days, the history's getting lost in somebody's email or in somebody's head if it was on a phone call. We had no visibility. That's internally in a way to manage it, no metrics or status of current open tickets. And externally, our customers wouldn't have any visibility into, okay, are they currently working on my support need? What stage is it at? How many open tickets do I have? Any of that type of information. Plus, everything was in their silos. Kyle had mentioned some information on a notepad, another in an Excel sheet, some in an act management system. We had that same scenario where we have account and contact management in one system, and the sales team's working with the same people, but that information wasn't together. And for our support tickets, that's critical because we need to know the history of the company, what deployment or release version they're on, because they might be calling about a bug or issue that was resolved in the latest release. We don't want someone to take that time to track it down. We want to know instantly when they're looking at a ticket, okay, you're on version 5.02, and here's things that we know about that release. And like any small growing company, we, of course, have limited resources, both time-wise and budget-wise. We needed a system that can be easily implemented and one that we can really focus on how to grow it and look at the features and the opportunities as opposed to spending time on implementing and managing infrastructure and maintenance. Next slide. So our solution is using the Salesforce Service Cloud. Key for us is the integration. We do integrate with the accounts and contacts, which are the built-in standard things that every CRM system is going to have. But the next two items are cases. Those are relativity cases, or court cases in our systems, and instance, which is a deployment of relativity. And so we're very easily able to integrate in a support ticket screen information about all these objects and records. Our customers currently have 3 channels to work with us, by email to case. Anytime somebody has a question, problem, issue, they can just send an email to support@kCura.com, and it automatically creates a ticket. We'll recognize the contact information, associate the company, and the version they're running in that ticket. They can call us, or on the customer portal. We're big advocates of the customer portal. We'll be showing a few slides of that, and they can open a ticket directly from the kCura Relativity customer portal. We use a view-based criteria for workflow. When the ticket is first opened, we immediately notify the customer, and then it goes through several stages, and each our agents monitor certain queues based on a view, and makes it really easy to kind of track the life cycle of every support ticket. This gives us the tracking either of current tickets, where are they, are we waiting on information from the customer, are they currently being worked on, have they been escalated to development. It gives us the history of so we can watch trends and what areas are questions and contacts coming from. We do use a knowledge base with the solutions, and use that internally to help our agents find answers to common questions and problems, as well as expose it on our customer portal so that customers can, when they submit a ticket, see any related articles or do searching on their own. We've implemented surveys was critical so we can track how we're doing. We definitely want to know how our customers perceive the response they got on a closed ticket. Were they happy with the time? Were they happy with the general resolution? Are there things we can do to improve? And we found that everything that we've implemented as far as Salesforce and growing with us has been easy to implement and improve on as well. Let's go ahead and jump into the next slide, a couple of screenshots of our implementation. It's similar to what you saw with Kyle. This is the views that we work with. When a ticket is first created, we have a designated person or two that every day is watching a view called New Tickets to Scrub and Prioritize. So when a ticket first comes in, we have someone who opens each one of them, cleans it up a little, just make sure that the subject and description are specific and straight to the question or issue being asked. and that all the information is accurate, and most importantly, then prioritizes it. We do have SLAs with all of our customers, so based on the criteria of that ticket, the assigned priority will immediately move the ticket to the next queue, the open unassigned ticket, and notify the customer via email that it's been what priority that ticket has been categorized, and let them know how many hours they can expect a response in. From the open unassigned tickets, a manager will be assigning tickets based on the technical depth of the request and the workload of all of our agents, and our agents are all constantly monitoring their My Open Tickets view. If we go ahead and jump to the next slide, we'll look at a common ticket. It collects the subject, the description. Up in the right, we have our contact integration, where we can tell the company it's coming from, the version, the case that it's related to, and the origin. What did come in? This example came over the customer portal. And then the priority on the left is tagged as serious, so we know that it needs to be responded within 4 hours. And we have some built-in workflow if that time gets close that we can ping the agent and manager to make sure that someone's taking a look and helping the customer out immediately. We also are able to track time right inside of the ticket, which is important with a key solution for us, as some of our support tickets are billable. So without having to go to a separate system, our agents can right here just keep track of their hours at the end of the month. We can tally that all up and send an appropriate invoice. Jumping to the next slide is the customer portal, and I mentioned the dashboard first for the managers. Our client service manager, these are the metrics that all day keeps a close eye on these tickets. They're very similar to what you saw before. This is tickets relating to relativity in all our deployments. You can watch the volume. Are we closing more tickets or opening more tickets on any given day? If these charts start to move to the right, we know that we're falling behind and need to catch up. Or if things are maintaining where they're at, we're doing a good job of opening as many tickets as they're coming in, as well as can track individual performance. What agents are closing the most tickets, what days are the volume coming in, and the accounts. That's key to us. If a customer of ours has more than a couple open tickets at any given time, that could be a good indicator that there's something bigger going on and that we want to escalate it and get some more people involved. On the next slide, you'll see we use the ideas feature, just like you saw. We definitely want to get our input from our customers, being a software company as well, for features, enhancements, give them a chance to kind of directly give feedback to us. Our development team and managers are actively participate. We'll add comments and respond to anything that's highly voted upon. It helps us decide our features for each monthly release. And we consider kind of the portal area when a lot of these items aren't direct support tickets. Tickets, being able to open and manage a ticket is one of the items, but every contact point it relates to service and the customer experience. And that's why we want to give them the opportunity to share their feedback, get their contact, find solutions, and manage tickets. Here we have the ability to view all your open tickets for your company if you're an administrative contact for that company, or you can just view your open tickets. We have scheduled status meetings with all our customers, and one of the key items that are covered in all those meetings are all open tickets at that time. So all of our customers go out to here. They just use the filter up the top to quickly pull up and say, okay, here are my open tickets. In this case, there were 3 of them. They know that the first one, we're waiting on information from them. One's currently in progress, and one's been escalated to our development team to take a closer look. And it really gives them a quick, easy insight into where everything's at. Just real quick, this is a sample of solutions. We've built a knowledge base of articles that can help our agents or let the customer go ahead and search on any commonly needed requests, problems, features. And then lastly, content. We really want to drive our customers to our customer portal, and we're continuing to add and expand to it. So we put all our product documentation there, all our release notes. It's easy to filter and search, and a key feature is a customer can subscribe not to just a particular document, but to a content type or a workspace. So if they want to know, hey, notify me every time new release notes are posted, they can add a subscription to that area and be notified by email each time we have some new release notes posted and quickly download that. Next slide. Some of the key results we've seen with our implementation is one that the critical has been successfully ramped with our growth. We're constantly adding new client service reps and customers. So we need to spend our time not just trying to scale out and maintain, but really get our new agents to hit the ground running and focus on how can we improve our processes and workflow and not maintain. We use the surveys. Every time someone closes a ticket, they get a link to a survey that we pulled right down from the App Exchange and quickly configured. 92% overall satisfaction, and we're looking to always increase that as much as possible. There are 6 key metrics that we ask on a 1 to 5 scale, and currently we have a 4.6 average, and we're closing about 250 tickets per week. What we're looking to do in the future, on the next slide, is the one I want to talk about, this top item, just because it's acting quickly on direct customer feedback that we got. We've experienced that experienced customers who have been with us for a while, they're no longer calling or contacting us for the easy questions and the easy problems. So they know the application really well at this point. So if they're contacting us, it's something probably critical or a little more in-depth. And so now we've implemented an automatic routing to our Tier 2 support based on if they're a certified admin of our application and the designation of how the ticket is defined, so they can get directly to the more experienced client service rep faster and get a quicker service for exactly what they need. We are tying in single sign-on from our application relativity directly into the customer portal. We're looking to implement answers to get not only us talking with our customers, but customers talking back and forth and question and answers. And then different ways for everyone to communicate with us via chat and provide metrics to our management team while they're traveling on a mobile deployment.
All right, thanks. That was a fantastic overview of how to really take advantage as a small, medium-sized business of all the technology that we have to offer. All right, we were strong on the timing, so congratulations today, guys. That leaves us about 10 minutes for Q&A for folks on the phone. And I did want to kick it off with a couple that came in early, one for Mike and one for Keith. Mike, could you maybe just talk about any advice you might have for another company who's thinking about getting started with a solution like this?
Absolutely. A couple key things, takeaways from our experience would be make sure that it's a priority. You definitely, advantage for us is we've never had a dedicated person. As we grow, we most likely are going to change that. But that speaks to the application, that we were able to build everything using their documentation. But to make sure that's a priority still, that okay, we know that this person or team is working on to designate some time each day or week to focus on getting things set up the way you want. I mentioned also it is a very intuitive app, but absolutely use the help documentation. We constantly are looking to add new features or wondering, okay, how do we do this? And it's a very well documented application, and you use the provided documentation on almost a daily basis to implement new items. And then for the support ticket category, a key piece I think is if you can plot out the categories or the groupings that you want to kind of bucket your support tickets in beforehand, that really helps make your metrics and analysis easier in the future than trying to have to go back and kind of modify that or lose that data up front.
Great, thanks. So the next question we had was more around the industry and some of the trends, so it's probably more appropriate for Keith. The question is about growth in terms of cloud computing. I know that we at Salesforce.com are seeing tremendous growth in our business. Maybe you could talk a little more generally about just general growth in the use of cloud computing across service and support.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we're seeing, historically in service delivery, cloud computing, also roughly equivalent term to hosting or on demand, has been pretty available in some of the core infrastructure. As I said, the ability to move calls around from place to place, the switching fabric has been available as a cloud application. But increasingly, just in the last couple of years, people are getting beyond that to experiment with not just the kinds of things we're talking about here, the service delivery applications, but some of the actual applications that are used to manage call center productivity, things like quality monitoring or workforce management. Those things are increasingly available in the cloud. And one of the things that's interesting too is that as people get more experience with cloud computing, no matter which domain they're taking it up in, whether it's the routing infrastructure or the quality applications or the service delivery applications, the more comfortable they get with it, the more likely they are, at least in my experience, to look to expand it into other areas. So the rapid growth that we've seen in the customer support software may be the leading edge in terms of getting cloud computing or hosted applications into contact centers for a much wider variety of applications. And we're seeing a lot of vendors who make things they're way off the Salesforce spectrum, out in quality and again workforce management and agent coaching. Some of those things are becoming available as cloud-based applications as well. So it's a really exciting time.
Great, thanks. I think that's a great lead into the next question that we had, which is around specifically some questions around our ability to integrate with Cisco and other telephony applications and whether or not you need to have on-premise Cisco or on-premise telephony. And one of the cool things we actually just announced is a new partnership with Cisco where they have they call their enterprise call center application, which handles all the incoming calls and the call routing and agent availability, all that stuff that you don't do with Salesforce.com, that used to only be available on-premise. It used to be really expensive and really only targeted, hence the name of the product, at enterprises. But with our new partnership, what they've done is actually ported all that technology into the cloud. And so what we're going to have available very, very shortly is basically a new bundle where you can bundle in a hardcore enterprise-grade telephony from Cisco with the Service Cloud for one bundled price. So no, you definitely don't need on-premise Cisco. We do integrate with Cisco. On the other hand, if you already have Cisco in place, we can integrate with your on-premise applications as well. We can integrate with over 80 different telephony applications. So hopefully that answers that question. The next question was, can small businesses use this if they only have a few hours to dedicate to this? And so I have a perspective on this, and maybe I'll let Mike chime in as well. But I think that's one of the cool things about this application is you can kind of drive it as fast as you want. It's been designed to be sort of intuitive and be able to use pretty much out of the box as it is. And if you only have a few hours a day, you can slowly get up to speed, make tweaks here, make tweaks there. And again, it's designed to be intuitive, not just from the end user perspective, but from the admin perspective as well. So adding new fields, creating new reports, adding a new workflow rule, whatever it might be, it's all wizard driven. So you don't have to go learn how to write a new programming language. It's pretty intuitive. So yeah, if you want to get started and you only have a few hours a week to dedicate to this, I think it's definitely a great solution. And then I'll let Mike add his perspective to that as well.
Yeah, yes, I would absolutely agree. I think you could get started with this with just a few hours, as you mentioned. It comes, you sign up for the free trial and see the ticket screens that you get, but you can start using it out of the box. I mean, it won't be customized specifically for your need, but then as you get time, you can change those drop-down list of categories you want, add new fields, build the reports and the metrics that you're looking for. But a lot of that, like 90% of it gets you going out of the box, and then it's just over time, kind of as you learn, adding those new features or workflows that you want to really kind of customize it to yourself.
Great. So next question, is the knowledge base optimized for Google linking? One of the cool new things about the new knowledge application that we just released is that it is pre-integrated with our Sites technology. What Sites allows you to do is basically expose information that historically has been behind the protective login of Salesforce.com, expose that in a way that you want to out to the public web, which means you can make it available for Google searches, for example, is a great example of that. And with the knowledge application, you can go on our App Exchange. It's our public public app marketplace and download what we call sort of a sample public knowledge base to get you started with that. Next question is, what editions is Service Cloud available in? So if you're not familiar with Salesforce, we basically sell different editions, everything from at the low end a contact manager up to group edition, professional edition, enterprise edition, and at the high end something called unlimited edition. And really when you start to get into the basic case management stuff, you're looking at around professional edition. That's a great entry point for this. But we find that eventually over time, the majority of our customers who are using it for service and support end up migrating up to enterprise edition. Because you do have access to the new knowledge application, you do have access to customer portal and some workflow rules and some things that really take it to the next level. And I think kCura, Mike, what are you guys using? Is it EE?
We actually just recently in the last month moved from enterprise to the unlimited version. But
there you go.
I will caveat that it's not required, especially for the service. We do a lot of things with Salesforce, just not the service.
Okay, fair enough. And let's see, Sarah, any more questions coming in on your end? Okay, so what I wanted to do just real quickly is just show you folks where to go if you want to learn more. You can just head over to www.salesforce.com/servicecloud. And it's a great spot to go and check out a demo if you want to, download a free trial, and learn what the more specific aspects of maybe our call center application or our customer portal application. So again, it's www.salesforce.com/servicecloud. Great place to go to learn more. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I just want to thank everybody so much for your time. A special thanks to both Keith and Mike for dedicating your time to this today. I think it was great information for people. So thanks everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.
This concludes today's teleconference. You may now disconnect.